All right, good day, everyone. I'd like to welcome you back to the virtual chat series, Keep Learning Strong, where my partner Candace and myself are trying to bring learning professionals together in order to meet the needs of the moment and thriving beyond it. Our goal is to promote learning and the professionals that make it happen. We did this just as we were moving into what I now call the COVID experience. And we hope it's very timely with regards to connecting learning professionals. Historically, I think learning has been one of those functions that has not always prospered when the economy suffers and the markets turn down. And Candace and I both feel very, very strongly, as do our guests, like Lars Hyland today, that the timing has never been better with regards to remote learning and keeping it front of mind and not doing the traditional cuts with regards to budget and resources at this time. So we're going to be talking today, as I mentioned already, with our esteemed guest, Lars Hyland. And Lars, my first question is, maybe you can resolve the age-old question. Is it Totara or Totara?
That's a good question. You got to say it with a Kiwi accent, really. So it's Totara is the normal way of saying it, but there was an entire blog post by one of our customers actually that goes through all the various variants of how to say it. Very diligent piece. I can point you at it. So it's very good. But we don't mind as long as people are using Totoro. It's all good.
There you go. That's the perfect answer. And I believe your title is Chief Learning Officer, and we can't wait to ask you some questions. I skipped ahead just a little bit there. For those of you that this is will be your first meeting with Candace and I'll give a very brief introduction. My name is Roger Rinker. I was in corporate HR for about 35 years, leading a couple of large global organizations in the HR function. During that time, I became very passionate about not only learning, but more specifically online learning and adult learning. And Candace and I met about 5-6 years ago now, and we share that passion. Candace, what else would you like to add for yourself?
Sure. Candace McGlenn, same as Roger, very passionate about talent development and online learning. For the last 10 years, I've worked in talent management and talent development space, and just really excited to be here and promoting learning and the professionals that make it happen. And I'll kick it back to you, Roger.
All right, thanks, Candace. And we'll go back to Lars at this point. Lars, we've asked everybody to kind of bring a quote to the table, if you will. And I think, and yours is by yourself, which I think is very cool. And I want to make sure we all interpret it correctly. Maybe you can explain it a little bit to us.
Yeah, so my quote is less learning, more often, which on first glance doesn't entirely feel like it makes sense. However, I wrote this about 10, 12 years ago, reflecting on what's a good learning experience and what's a good learning design like. And I spent a lot of my career actually designing interactive learning experiences. And the more you research it, the more you realize that too much of learning that we design these days, or training experiences, are largely just in case, large scale sort of sheep dip experiences where you're asked to absorb a lot of information, a lot of behavior change, a lot of skills development in a very short period of time. And it doesn't really work like that. We're learning all the time. And in fact, the research really does demonstrate that you learn through repeated, deliberate practice. So that really suggests inserting learning much more closer to the flow of work, or in the workplace context. And it means that learning is something that you do frequently, so more often, and that the instances of conscious learning, you know, really focused, I guess more formal learning, is broken down into more manageable chunks. And we've seen that manifest itself with various trends, some of them taken too much to an extreme, you know, so micro learning concepts, you know, the whole area of spaced learning, reinforcement models and practices, which are becoming much more prevalent. So this concept of offering less learning opportunities, but more frequently, or smaller sizes of them, and even spacing them at appropriate times, is, I think, you know, pretty critical to a more effective outcome. So that's why I quite like it. I like it because it's slightly dissonant. When you see it first off, you think, well, hang on, that doesn't make entire sense. But the more you think about it, actually, I believe it's a good shorthand for thinking about designing a good learning experience these days.
Great, thank you. I think that's a great kind of start to our conversation today, and couldn't agree with you more. You know, I think in today's time, something that Candace and I share with our clients on many occasions is that when we do focus, when we've done focus groups with regards to end users, typically the number one feedback we get is don't waste my time, right? And it kind of goes to your point of get them what they need when they need it. That might be a microbyte, as some people would say, or it might be more than that, but definitely, you know, kind of tailor the experience to the end user. So what else would you like to share about yourself and Totoro with us to kind of start things going today?
Sure. Yeah, let me give you a bit of context. So Totara Learning, the company, offers a very flexible platform called Totara that's used by 1,800 organizations now around the world. It's pretty prevalent, and it's used in a whole wide range of sectors, public and private. But my role as Chief Learning Officer is one that is part of the senior management team and sort of leading what is a growing band of Totara staff around the world to build out our platform to cover not just learning management, which I think a lot of people will know, Totara Learning, but also entering the fields of performance management with Totara Perform, and also employee engagement and collaboration with Totara Engage, and really sort of exploring this what is I think a nascent and growing trend or realization, really, that we need to be bringing all of those three things much closer together to be more effective in supporting, you know, people in the workplace. So my role is to explore that, to really delve into the research, the trends, and to help you know, really tell people about what we're doing at Totara, but also how our partners, yourselves included, are all really supporting you know, organizations of all shapes and sizes to be more effective with all of those three things, you know, but particularly, you know, learning management, learning design, and delivering
Great.
really good.
Yep. No, thank you for that. You know, kind of the concept, keep learning strong. Can you tell us a little bit about what that means to you when you hear it, and maybe the importance behind it, certainly given our current times?
Sure. Yeah, it's a great slogan, or a great way of putting it. To me, keep learning strong, I think, is about effective learning. So I've touched on that before already. And what we need, I think, to be mindful of is not learning things or thinking that we're learning things just for the sake of it, especially in the times that we are finding ourselves in. You know, some people find themselves being asked to do learning programs that may have not really made a lot of sense to do, even in previous times, and yet they're doing it. So there's sort of mindless learning that that we've got to be careful of, and then there's mindful learning, which I think correlates quite nicely with this. You know, keep learning strong is, you know, am I learning, you know, the right things? Am I confident that I can put them into practice effectively? Do I actually have the time to reflect and to deliberately practice what I'm learning, especially if that's more formally given to me. And if it's more informal, in many respects, I think in today's world, or right now, where most of us find ourselves in lockdown and working from home, or if we are working, there's extra time. There's extra time to do informal learning and self-directed learning. So having some strategies around how you decide what it is and how you do it is going to be there's a core skill, I think, we need to be a muscle that we should be exercising. So I think that tallies quite nicely with your slogan of keep learning strong. It's exercising the muscle in the right way so that it's balanced. And actually a healthy outcome, as opposed to something that could be a little bit distorted or actually not deliver the right value for you as an individual or your organization.
Great. And so, Lars, would love to know, what changes you've seen in your company over the last 3 months. There's been a lot of change and challenges. So interested to know how it's affected Totoro.
Yeah, Totoro is an example. In fact, we're not a good example of what I think most people have been through. As a technology company, we already were in a position that was facilitating flexible working anyway. And the nature of our ways of working means that the technology is there, the processes are there, the workflow is there to sort of shift to become fully remote. So we moved quite quickly to move all of our people to work from home. And it was a fairly painless transition, really. Now, I hesitate to sort of, trumpet that really. It's more a case of we were in the right position. We were already a flexible organization and open to be able to support this. Not everybody has been, but I think many organizations have. Well, those organizations that have been previously, investing in a flexible working environment, then they've probably made this transition more easily. So the focus for us has been in helping our people make that transition in a practical way, in an emotional sense, and also how that intersection between our personal lives and our work lives have sort of crossed over a little bit, haven't they? I'm talking to you from my home, and I think we're sort of bringing more of that sort of personal aspect into the workplace, which is now a virtual workplace for us all.
Yeah.
Yeah, it certainly is. Are there any common challenges that your clients and customers are approaching you with now that you could share with us, Lars?
Yeah, well, we typically hear about our customers in two ways. One is through our extensive partner network. So we've got about 100 or up to 100 partners around the world. So they are very close to customers and deliver solutions that are based on Totoro. Now, we also have the Totoro community, which is a free community environment in which our customers, representatives from the customers, so learning professionals, 7,000 of them, in fact, can congregate and collaborate and share. So that's where we get sort of more direct insight as to what those challenges might be. Now, as you'd expect right now, a lot of people have been focused on, what's the best way to be able to work remotely, and also how to design a learning experience that is conducted remotely. Perhaps that's new to some folk, but a lot of people who are already Totoro users, in their organizations are going to be fairly comfortable with the concept of certainly e-learning and also running almost events like this to sort of capture and disseminate and broadcast some learning opportunities using video and other media. So what we've seen is a demand that we have also fulfilled through partners, our content partners such as Go1, who offer portfolios of content that support remote learning, managing remote teams. That's a big topic area. And being able to get the most out of their platform. So with Totoro, there's a lot of functionality there, and more organizations are starting to delve more deeply into the platform to use it in more deeper ways. So you know, that's been accelerated, I think, during this experience.
Great, thank you. I'm going to pass it to Candace, and she'll take it from here.
Great, thanks, Roger. So Lars, really, I'm curious to know your perspective as the Chief Learning Officer with Totara, and also, you know, your work on the advisory board with HR.com. What is successful distance learning? You talk a lot about learning experience, so would love to hear your thoughts here.
Sure. Well, so learning at a distance, it's an interesting distinction, really, isn't it? Because I guess you're really sort of comparing it to I guess being in a classroom or being in a workshop and being, you know, interacting directly with people. It could also be working side by side, you know, and conversing in a more coach-mentor sort of model as well. Now, so I'm sort of bring all of those elements together because I feel a good learning experience is actually a mix of all of those things in an ideal situation. So you're blending those experiences together, the use of media as well, the use of interaction, the use of sort of active learning exercises to put things into practice. So all of those things still play out, you know, even if you are, as we are now, and some people may be feeling, you know, completely forced to do it all at a distance. So what it does is it changes, I guess, your palette of options to use, but it doesn't change necessarily the decisions that you need to make around the sort of learning flow, the sequences between those learning activities. You know, a lot of that should be driven from, you know, good design practice anyway. The fact that you're moving it to being distance is, you know, could be immaterial, because you could be moving events that are synchronous, you know, live events, and you're just doing it now through Zoom or some other sort of technology that can facilitate that. And as more people become more comfortable with it, the differences start to sort of fall away a little bit. Equally, you could be redesigning that distance learning to be genuinely asynchronous, so not done in a live format, but allow for people to collaborate, you know, with each other at different times. And in many respects, you could probably get a more effective set of learning outcomes if you're asking people to collaborate on common problems, to do it in that fashion, especially if you're a virtual team spread across time zones. So in many respects, I feel that if you're doing it, if you think of this in the right way, then you could end up with more effective outcomes by focusing on the distance learning experience, as you call it.
Great. Can you share some ways that Totara helps with successful distance learning that you just highlighted?
Oh, well, it's a whole gamut of options. I encourage anyone watching to actually go on our website and look at all of the customer stories that are there. There's about 300 of them, so it's quite a lot, and they break down according to sector and also to use case. So you can see, literally, you can filter down to find a use case that's probably quite similar to your own organization's circumstances. So the range there, you know, it covers you know, onboarding new staff through to compliance requirements. Those can be delivered again through, depending on the nature of the how regulated you are, for example, or the hazardous nature of things as to how much you can do exclusively at a distance. But other examples are extended enterprise solutions, going out beyond your own organizations and offering learning opportunities to a wider set of stakeholders, such as resellers or even customers themselves. So there's a whole range of them there. It's hard for me to pick anyone. I at this time, it's quite, it's satisfying in one sense. It's obviously a sad situation, but so much, there's a lot of learning going on that's focused around healthcare workers and also key workers because of the circumstances that we find ourselves in. And it's great to see our tool sets being used in a positive way like that.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. And just in general, especially over the last 2 to 3 months, what advice do you have for business leaders and L&D leaders from your perspective?
Yeah, well, I'd say, I've been saying this for a while actually, and Totoro is a long-standing supporter of this belief, which is strategically organizations need to be much more responsive, much more agile in responding to changing economic circumstances or market circumstances or regional circumstances. And hey, that's really hit us right now. And if you weren't ready for it, then you're really going to be suffering. So what can you learn from this, where you're learning in real time right now, and you're needing to change your business objectives on a sixpence, as I might say, from a UK perspective, but you're changing very, very quickly. So you need to know that the processes you have, the technology infrastructure that you put in place is going to be flexible. It's going to be open enough to support that type of change, and that you, as the customer or the user of that technology, genuinely have control over that and the ability to make those changes. So you don't find yourself in a situation, locked into a technology dead end that that may be proprietary. You can't really adjust it or change it or customize or integrate it in the way that you now need it to be integrated. Or you're locked in from a commercial perspective, you can't change. If you find yourself in that situation, then you're in big trouble right now. I think a lot of organizations are taking a good hard look at what they have right now and recognizing that it's probably not fit for purpose now. And now they're recognizing that you need to think about, well, will this be fit for purpose in a different scenario 3 months down the line, 6 months down the line? So you need to know that you've got confidence in being able to facilitate that.
Absolutely. Flexibility is key right now, for sure.
Absolutely, yeah.
So what are the most important skills or competencies that you feel need to be cultivated in the workforce today?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's a lot of talk about an upcoming mass reskilling of the workforce as we go towards a digital first work environment.
Yeah.
That was the tone of the language that I was using before. I guess we're smack bang in it now. We are all digital first, pretty much. All our communication and ability to collaborate with each other is mediated through screens at present, and we're needing to work in that way. So in terms of skills and competencies, doesn't matter what your role is, you need to have digital literacy. I would suggest you need to have data literacy, and I guess we're getting a crash course in that, given all of the COVID data communication that we're given, and we're getting a very interesting, well, maybe this is my personal point of view, but it's quite confusing. It's hard to actually get a concrete view as to what the data is really telling you, and that's quite a powerful lesson. We can take that back into our organizations and sort of, I think, look afresh at what the data we're collecting is telling us. Is it actually valuable to us? Is it meaningful? What's the integrity of it? Now, all of that really feeds into pretty much everything that we need to do, because we need to be very outcomes focused.
Yeah.
So, I think in short, you may have heard of the concept of a T professional, someone who's got broad understanding across all aspects of their business, but has a deep skill set in one area. That's been around for quite some time. But I like to think of it more as either a pie with just the Greek letter pi with two strands to it, where you have two deep skills that you can go into the workplace with, plus a broad understanding. It may even be like an M, so you've got three deep skills. And I need to be open to adopt these new skills and see the connections and the complementarities between those skill sets is really critical to staying relevant in the workplace. Otherwise, your job roles start to date very quickly, and in fact, some of these roles will be increasingly automated. So being comfortable with working alongside more sophisticated technologies is a pretty critical thing, I think, for us all, especially in learning and development.
Great, that's very insightful. I don't think I've ever heard it described that way in terms of the pie, but very, very useful.
I made it up, Candice, but it's it's an extension of something that I think is more applicable. Yeah,
that's awesome. So what has helped you in regards to self-care during this time?
In self-care, yeah, that's a good question. I think like a lot of people, being able to connect with family and with friends, but having to do it at a distance, it's been very important, I think, to ourselves as a family. I've got my immediate family has been split in terms of one in Melbourne, Australia, one in London, and yet we can talk like this as we are doing on a regular basis. So that sense of connection has been really important. I think also being I think flexible with your work colleagues, being able to understand the different transitions, that circumstances that your people will be going through, and just giving people space. That's been I think quite important. Not introducing unnecessary stress on people. I think some organizations have made that mistake, and probably will suffer for that in terms of their brand reputation going forward. But I think just being sensitive, I think, to the transitions that people need to make, and giving people that time to learn, reflect, and apply new skills, and giving people the tools to be able to do that, and making sure those tools don't get in the way, they're actually supportive. That's, I think, increasingly important as we rely on them almost exclusively to actually get things done.
Absolutely. And so just final thoughts from you. How do you plan to keep learning strong?
Well, on my own. How do I plan to keep learning strong? For me personally, it's an everyday occurrence. Learning is an every hour occurrence, really, especially in a knowledge work role that I have. Interacting with others is constantly. I'm constantly in that mode. So a lot of what I do is about research. It's about learning. It's about connecting with others. It's about communicating. So that is going to continue, and always has been there. And I think from a broader perspective, Totoro is very much at the center of delivering a positive learning experience, or enabling organizations to deliver that. And I think what I'm really keen to see is people getting the most out of the tools that they already have, particularly our Totoro customers around the world. They've got a powerful tool in front of them, and some are used in some simple ways, others are using it in extremely sophisticated and powerful ways that are game changing for their businesses. And you know, I'm keen to see more you know, switch on to that.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Lars. It's been wonderful having you here and sharing your insights. Obviously, you've been in this space for some time, and you have some really good insights that were helpful, and I know our viewers will find helpful as well. Follow Lars. You can connect with him on LinkedIn, and also, like he said, check out some of the case studies of Totara by visiting totaralearning.com. And Roger, did you have anything to add?
No, I found it a very intriguing conversation, one that I'll probably listen to again here to make sure that I got it all. But Lars, we really appreciate your time. We know devoting, you know, better part of an hour to something when there's lots of competition for time right now is quite the commitment. So we thank you for that, especially given your time, as this is closer to the evening hours and getting away from work, hopefully. But best of luck to you, and I'm sure we'll be chatting in the weeks and months to come. Everybody take care. Candace, I know you probably wanted to share a little bit about sharing your stories.
Absolutely. And so we just encourage you to share your story. What does Keep Learning Strong mean to you? Why is it important? What is your organization doing to keep learning strong during this time? Again, we just really want to promote learning, the professionals that make it happen, and why it's critical during this time. So share your story. We want to hear from you. You can do that on LinkedIn, Twitter, and then we encourage you to follow our page at www.innovationsolutions.com to get more videos like this one from experts around this topic. Thank you.